Okay, so I'm going to show you how to install the front light. So depending on the method of delivery, your front light might arrive detached and it will just be kind of cable tied or something to the other wires, and so you'll need to fit it onto the front of the handlebars here. Okay, so all you're going to need for this is a 5mm Allen key, a 3mm Allen key, and if you've got one, and I would really highly recommend getting one of these, some form of torque wrench with a 5mm end on it. As I say, if you're like me and you're a little bit ham-fisted and you have the habit of rounding bolt heads, then getting yourself a torque wrench is a really great idea, and they're not very expensive at all. So let's get to it. So as I say, upon delivery, the front light of your cargo might arrive detached and usually cable tied to the other wires or something like that. So what it does is it just slots in this gap here on the headset. Okay, and I will show you how to do that. And it's easy to get a little bit intimidated when it comes to dealing with the headset, but it's pretty straightforward. So one of the things that you might want to do is just move the head unit, the computer, out of the way. It should be relatively, like, sort of semi-loose when it's delivered, so you should just be able to push it out of the way. But if it's not, then just with a 3mm Allen key, you can just undo the two bolts on the back side of the clamp just to kind of loosen it off and move it right out of the way. Okay, so then what we're going to do in order to kind of get the fixture into the headset, we're just going to remove the two bolts at the front of the headset clamp. Okay, now with these two bolts, there is little washers on them as well. Okay, and it's quite easy to kind of leave the washer behind when you take the bolts out, so just keep an eye out for that. They won't be as loose as this when your bike arrives. I've just kind of pre-loosened them just so that we're not here all day watching me undo bolts. So you take the first two headset bolts out, and then the light should just slide straight in between in that little gap in the front of the headset. Then all you need to do is return the bolts. Just do them with your hands to begin with, making sure the washers are on the bolts before they go in. And then this is where the torque wrench comes in. Okay, so with the headset, you really want to make sure it's done up properly. And it's not a case that you want to do it as tight as physically possible, because you can actually break the clamp or you can crack the handlebar. So we want this set to 5 Nm as best as possible. That generally equates to kind of doing up with a normal Allen key to a point where you can only do it with one hand, if that makes sense. So if I get to this point here where I can only twist it like that, to twist it anymore, I would need to get another hand in and really kind of wrench it. So that's roughly the equivalent of 5 Nm, but I would highly recommend getting yourself a torque wrench. The other thing about when you're doing the headset bolts up is just do a little bit at a time, so that you're not loading one side of the clamp up significantly more than the other. So just do a couple of turns or half a turn at a time on each bolt, and then with if you do have a torque wrench, until it just sort of clicks like that. Now what you might find is that the light, once you've done that, you think all is good, hopefully that's you done. But if you find that the light is a little bit wobbly, what you then need to do is just undo them again, the front, not completely, just until they spin quite easily, and then also undo the back ones. Okay, so what this does is once you undo the back ones, it then allows you to take more of the clamp to the front. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So basically undo the back ones as well, and then just do the front ones up. So just a little bit at a time on each side. So once it starts to grip, then you just do sort of like half or quarter of a turn on each side. until you get to the talking point. Okay, and then you do the back ones up. Okay. So it's following the same process, just a little bit at a time on each one. Okay, and then it should be a lot more solid. And then if you have had to move the computer, the head unit, just put it back into position and then just do it up. This one you don't need to do particularly tight. It's always helpful to be able to move it with your hand a little bit, with a little bit of force. And that is the front light mounted. And obviously you just want to double check that the cable is connected. Turn on your computer and then just check that the light is working. There we go.